Hi, guys. I'm going to be talking about a very interesting topic today, and it actually came from a Facebook post that I saw this morning. And I was actually, interacting with the person who posted it, and it was an awesome post. And basically, it was just saying in a nutshell how crazy, how sad it is that people, you know, um, get married and a man is dating someone, marries that person, and then a year later is separated from this person. And just the message and how shameful it is, on today's men. And I would say men and women in general, yes, this is happening. It is very common. And that's simply because of the type of society and how we're living, the world that we're living in today, where if things are not working out, get another one. No different than when you buy a shirt. You buy a shirt, hey, you don't like it, you can turn it in with or without a receipt, depending on what stores you're going to. And so it really boils down to us taking a different approach to marriage. You see it on television, you see celebrities, we see it in our lives, friends and family that we know have been married for many, many years, and they're just getting a divorce. And a lot of it is on account of infidelity, a lot of times, or sometimes people say irreconcilable differences. We just grew apart. But I want you to know that anything that's rooted in Christ and comes from God, and if you are taking a godly approach to the relationship, it will last. There are examples of that, okay? And even people who are not saved, they're sticking together, and sometimes even though they're not saved, they still are putting God in it somehow, and it's working out, or they're not, and they're together. They just make up in their mind, I'm going to be with you no matter what. And then there's some people, they are together, but they are cheating. So they're like, well, I'm with you. It's too expensive. They have that song, it's cheaper to keep her. So they just have their own little things going on. They're nothing more than roommates. They've moved on. They're just staying together for the sake of the children, or just to avoid the mess of divorce, or for image sake. But they are divorced mentally. So for us as believers, it's funny because believers are getting divorced just as quickly, just as often. And that is because believers have adapted the ways of the world. The way of the world says if it doesn't work, you could get another wife, get yourself another husband. If you don't want another wife or another husband, the very least, you can have yourself a little boy toy, a little chick on the side. You can do all those things. And so that's what we do. We do in marriages, we take on the same approaches. We do the same thing as the world. You're following, Nene off of the housewives of ATL or the housewives of New York City. You're dealing with your husband, you're dealing with your wife the way the world would deal with their husbands and their wives. And so we are therefore experiencing the same fallout. What I will say about me, I was married before and it did not work out. And my approach was simply from a worldly standpoint. Not once did I ever think about putting God into my relationship at all. I felt I had all the attributes, all it took, all the niceties of being a wife, and that was it. However, I did not have God in it. I do remember, like, when I would date, once it's getting to a point that we're serious and we've been going together for a while, I would say to them, and a while would be like within a year, I would say to them, listen, I'm not going to date you forever. I'm not going to date you forever. I remember always saying that straight up. I'm not going to date you forever. If you want someone to date, then we can be friends. I date you every now and then, and I'll go out with other people. But I'm not going to be your lady for many, many years. So I always made it clear that if you knew that you are not interested in marriage or anything like that, I'm not going to date you forever. And of course, they would marry me. But the bottom line is, I mean, not right away, but trust me, they did. It was just, it wasn't something I pushed for. I didn't say when, but I just made it very clear that you're not gonna just have me around like that all the time. But even with that, it was worldly, right? And I never put God in it. And I just thought, why wouldn't you want to marry me, right? And if you don't, I'm out. Later on down the line, I would just be like, bye. Keep in mind, I'm not saying I pressured them, but I would make it clear that I will not be dating you for years on end and we are not married. So we would do that, and we did. But once we got married, we also encountered problems in the relationship. And because there was no God at the foundation of it, our approach was from a worldly point of view. So everything that you could imagine that could happen within a marriage where God is not in it, it kind of happened. I mean, minus, certain things, but definitely certain things that would make it biblically okay for divorce. It occurred. But even then, I wasn't thinking about biblical. I was just like, I'm leaving. And one thing I realized about myself that I'm going to share today, that the Lord shared with me maybe last year or early this year, He showed me something. As you know, when you're in the presence of the Lord will show you more and more about you. Even when I was married, even what I noticed about myself, something that I will do is I will let you run amok. Now, I wanted to be in a committed relationship. I was committed to my husband, but at the same time, whenever he would do anything wrong, or even, deep relationships and something is going wrong, I will forgive and I will stick it out. And I did these things. I'll forgive a lot, and I will, forgive, and I will move on, and I continue to treat them right, and I continue to do the right things. But in the back of my mind, I had a countdown. Because one thing I realized about myself that the Lord showed me was I had the ability to just leave you. I will leave the relationship. If I know that I've done my best, I can leave you. So what I will do is I would state what I would desire. I will forgive you over and over again, even when you kept messing up. But in the back of my mind, I knew what I was doing. It was actually, I'm building a case. So you keep running amok, you keep doing what you want to do, because when I leave you, I need to feel justified in the fact that I did everything that I could. So even then, my heart was not right. And that's something that God showed me, because I'm very comfortable with cutting off the relationship. As much as I love you, as much as I want to be with you, if you continue to hurt me, you continue to do certain things, I felt like, okay, I'll let you hurt me this much. I'm going to let you do this. I'm going to let you do that. Shed a few tears because it really did hurt. I really do want you to do right. But in the back of my head, I've already started disconnecting from you. And I already know that I am going to leave. I don't want to leave, but I'm going to leave you. And I don't care if I had a child with you or not. I'm out. And that's what I did. So maybe in their mind, they felt that I love them so much, I'm not going to go anywhere. Instead of maybe looking at that as an olive branch, it was more than likely taken for granted. But once I reached that point that I was ready to leave, I felt justified in divorcing, because I felt like, well, I did my best. I did all that I could. I allowed you to do all these things. I continue to forgive you. You continue to do what you want to do. So now I'm out. And there's nothing you can say that's going to make me change my mind, because I did my best. So now I can divorce you and not feel guilty. But the Lord showed me how that was even wrong, that mindset. And that if I was to get married in the future, I couldn't have that same approach to marriage, because is that truly love? Maybe not. But at the time, I felt like, okay, yeah, I'm in, but get right. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this to show you how sometimes our mindset is all a part of why marriages are just falling apart. There's this, you're in it, but you already have your cutoff. You already know what is going to be your deal breakers, rather than having the approach that God has given to us. If we follow His principles about how the husband should love the wife the way that Christ loved the church, who gave Himself, who is long suffering, if we are submitting as wives and doing the things that we should do, then you'll find that there will be longevity. But a lot of times, most people don't want to do all that type of stuff. They don't want to stick it out. It's because we're in a society of me and I and self, where I can leave you and just get something else. There's so much out there. There's so many things out there, especially for men. There are so many options that it's easier to go. It's easier to break off the relationship. It's easier just, I'm just going to pay child support. Now, in some cases, things happen and you have to go. There are some justifications that are there biblically, that you can put your wife away. But some people, they just get tired of their wife because she's gained weight. The husband don't look good no more. They keeping a man on the side. They have another woman on the side. They having affairs, all of that. They feel like they love this other person more now. So they will leave their wife and kids, or the wife will take off and leave her husband. Women do it too, because God is not there. God is not there. Everyone gets married and the wedding is beautiful and they're looking at all of this stuff. But then, now reality kicks in. Another thing that I did say was that sometimes we're already giving up the cookies. We're already doing husband and wife stuff very early in our relationship. Whether we're already living together with that person, we're already having sexual intercourse early. We're doing all these things. So then there's nothing left. You get married and you have nothing to discover together. So that person now is looking at you like, okay, and they want to go. Is that an excuse? No. The end of the day, it boils down to nobody wants to go through long suffering. No one wants to submit. No one wants to love the way Christ loved the church. And we can say it, but you truly just cannot love the way Christ loved the church without you as a man spending time in the presence of the Lord and allowing God's character to come upon you and allow you to love that woman that way. And as women, we can't do the things that we're supposed to do, and knowing how to submit and knowing how to be silent when we need to be and to speak when we need to be. We're not going to know how to approach our relationship from a place of wisdom, having kind words, if we don't have God involved. We're going to do kind of like what I did, even though I was, trust me, biblically justified in a lot of ways. I wasn't thinking about the Bible. I wasn't thinking about anything like that. I was just like, countdown, starting now, and that's it. I mean, trust me, in the relationship, I truly loved and wanted to be there. But I also realized within Arlene, I have this switch inside of me that just like, okay, well, cool, because I know now that I'm getting ready to go. And I had to look back at my family history, certain things, going back as I discovered certain things that, hey, I had very strong women in my family who loved hard, but they also had the ability to walk away and go and just take care of themselves. So there are a lot of generational things on my side, and God had to show me that, like, hey, you know what? It's not that God's going to put you in a relationship where he wants you to be abused and he wants you not to be in the right place or be loved, and he doesn't want you to be ran over. But at the same time, I never allow the Lord to select my mate. I always just did what I wanted to do. So what I'm learning, guys, is we can't do things like the world. If we take the approach of the world, then the result is going to be the same. We're going to close out our relationships the same way as the world. So that's why so many people can get married and just walk away and divorce them and separate. And people just separate forever and never divorce, just live totally different lives. There are people who are married and they're living separate lives. So don't be fooled by every marriage. Every marriage is not a happy marriage. And then I will also say, pay attention to those signs while you're dating that person. Don't ignore the things that you see. There's nothing that's ever a surprise. What it is, we choose to continue even when we see the red flags. We think we are different. You look at the way that they treated their exes. You look at the way that they do certain things, how they address them. I remember dating someone a long time ago, and that person was talking to me, and he was married before. And I remember him telling me at that time that, I guess at the time, his ex, he was married to her then, she had done something. She was upsetting him, not necessarily cheating on him, but frustrating him. And he cheated on her. And he said, I didn't feel any regrets. And I remember at that time thinking, that's interesting. But you know what? I continued dating him. And we didn't work out, of course. But things like that, pay attention to them. But the biggest thing right now, guys, is the focus should be Christ first. You want to, before you start looking, look within yourself. Before you start thinking about a husband and a wife, look in yourself and allow God to show you the things you need to clean up. Because we have a lot of habits. We have a lot of things that we have to clean up and get right and become the image of God and get his characteristics, work out our kinks, work out our funky stuff so that we can be better for a mate, because we're both coming from a standpoint of Christ. and we'll embrace one another, and we'll hold a relationship in that, holding his principles and wanting to do things his way. All right, guys, I'm out.